Hello everybody, my name is Mr. Kamsaki, and today we are recording a video about Unreal Engine 5, which the video came out on May 13th, 2020, and I noticed it, and I watched it like 6 times, well 5 because it's Unreal Engine 5, and I was going to make a video on it, but I was too busy at the time, so now I'm doing it now, and the reason why I'm making a video about Unreal Engine 5 is for Roblox developers to understand what all the terms mean and what this means for gaming in general. And part of why I'm doing a video on Unreal Engine in general is because part of my goal with my YouTube channel is to help people progress through first using Roblox and basic tools to advance your skills and get basic skills as a game developer, and then to advance through that and go to industry standard skills like Blender and Maya and Unity and Unreal Engine and all kinds of other stuff that will help you enter the professional industry and really hit it off as a game developer. Roblox is a great place to learn the basics. The thing I would say that's different from Roblox to the mainstream game dev industry is that the people are very different. And so if you go onto Twitter and look at all these Roblox people having conversations, go onto Roblox, go onto Roblox Discord servers and forums, you know, you're in-game in the chat, you're on YouTube watching the videos that people make for Roblox. It is very cringy at times and horrible and nasty in a lot of ways. But I have chosen to enter this space so that I can help people not necessarily leave it, but progress through it and reach their goals. And so when you enter the game dev industry as a whole, you will experience that people are generally a lot more honest and kinder and just better in a lot of ways. But without further ado, let's go ahead and watch this video together. This is the video released by Unreal Engine themselves on their YouTube, and it talks about Unreal Engine 5, and I'm really excited. You just have to watch it. I can't preface this. We've just got to watch it, and look, it has 6.9 thousand dislikes. That means 69. Alright, nice. Alright, let's go.
Hello, I'm Brian Karras, Technical Director of Graphics here at Epic Games.
Hi, I'm Jerome Plateau, Art Director of the Special Project.
A few years ago, we got together as a team and brainstormed where we thought we could push forward the state-of-the-art in real-time graphics. There were 2 key areas that stood out. The first, dynamic global illumination. Beautiful bounce lighting, instantaneously.
I don't have to be constrained to do a game where the world has to be static, and I'm able to iterate a lot faster.
And we call this new system Lumen. And we're about to show you what it is capable of. But first, there was another area that we thought we could push forward. Truly virtualized geometry. The artist wouldn't have to be concerned over poly counts, draw calls, or memory. We could directly use film quality assets and bring them straight into the engine.
And that's
I have to comment. Okay, that is a big deal. Hold on, let's rewind that a little bit.
The artist wouldn't have to be concerned over poly counts, draw calls, or memory.
Okay, actually I don't know what draw calls is, so let's actually look that up. Batching, you know, we're not going to get into that, but poly counts, that's a big deal, because sometimes you have to reduce the detail of your meshes so that your renderer doesn't get overloaded, especially devices that you're running your game on. If it's not a console, if it's like PC, some people can't run good games on their PC, and even de-optimized games are run really poorly on even good devices because the game developer just doesn't know how to make optimized games. So this, what they're implying is that they're making it easier to optimize games without having to have a bunch of technical knowledge.
We could directly use film quality assets and bring them straight into the engine.
And that's a big deal for artists. I just want to be able to import my ZBrush model, my photogrammetry scan, my CAD data without wasting any time optimizing.
Do you know what a photogrammetry scan is? It's basically taking photographs of a real-life object from lots of angles and then giving those photographs to the computer, and the computer constructs a 3D model that is fully textured and then you clean it up a little bit, but it's really freaking cool because you can get super hyper realistic looking stuff.
Creating LODs or even lowering the quality to make it hit frame rate.
In the end, that's what it's all about. Art that just works. And we call this new technology nanite.
Just works. Sounds like a little bit like Bethesda Game Studios. Anyway.
Here is the future of Unreal Engine running live on a PlayStation 5.
Awesome. Let's take a look at it.
This has to be the right way.
This, can you tell that this looks absolutely amazing? It looks like a film. Those animations are pretty good too.
Before we continue, let's stop a moment and take a look at some of the key features of this demo. Much of what you see was built with Quixel Megascan assets, but instead of using the game versions, we used the cinematic versions, which would typically only be used in film. There are around 1 million triangles each, and thanks to virtual texturing, they all use 8K textures as well. Nanite can render an insane number of triangles very quickly. There are over 1 billion triangles of source geometry in each frame that Nanite crunches down losslessly to around 20 million drawn triangles. What does that many triangles look like? This isn't noise. These are the triangles, each a different color. Most are so small that they look like noise. Nanite achieves detail down to the pixel, which means triangles are often the size of pixels.
Okay, you know what that means? So it gets your screen resolution. It figures out how small it can get away with making, well, how big it can get away with making stuff, and it makes it as small as your pixels. So it doesn't make it any smaller, which means it's never rendering detail that is not going to be noticed on your monitor. So it is super high detail, but it's also super monetized. I mean, optimized.
This amount of geometric detail requires shadows to be pixel accurate as well, and Nanite can do that too. Speaking of lighting, all of the lighting in this demo is completely dynamic, with the power of Lumen that even includes multi-bounce global illumination. No light maps, no baking here. Without GI, all of that beautiful lighting is gone. With Lumen enabled, we can move the light and the bounce changes instantly.
Okay, that is a big deal. Do you know what baked lighting is? It means that they pre-render the light in an environment so that the renderer doesn't have to calculate it. So basically it figures out what is this going to look like if we're in a certain lighting environment, and then it makes everything look like that. But when you do that, you can't change the lighting. And common, like, I guess you would call them workarounds to get baked lighting. You would use stuff like these God rays, like Caspicular rays. Like, basically what that means is the light is hitting particles in the air and then creating that beam effect. But you would use a 3D object and put that in the environment. But this isn't using a 3D object. This is actually using light effects. Even when it moves, like you can see when it moves.
With Lumen enabled, we can move the light and the bounce changes instantly.
When that moves, you can tell that it's actually a lighting effect and not just a 3D object because, as he said, the bounce changes. So like this is a super big deal because you can have also light sources. First of all, it's way easier for game development because you don't have to pre-make everything, especially if you're going to have the same environment with different lighting. But you can also use light sources that the player holds, and then you'll have less stuff like things being black when they should be lit up, and a bunch of other lighting errors that can happen with baked lighting.
Okay, let's keep going. We've made some great additions to our audio system as well. Convolution reverb allows us to measure reverberation characteristics of real spaces, like actual caves that we sampled, and reproduce them in virtual spaces. Sound field rendering allows us to record and playback spatialized audio.
So this sound technology is something that has been experimented with for a while, but it looks like they're just making it way better, and more able to run on a console in real time.
All of this adds up to a more immersive experience.
Those animations.
This swarm of bats was created with our Niagara effects system. Particles in Niagara can now talk to one another and understand their environment like never before.
So Niagara existed in Unreal Engine 4. I don't know about earlier versions before Unreal Engine 4, but they are making it a lot better by adding some new AI features to it, which he'll talk about.
We've also added a ton of new functionality to run fluid simulations like you see in the water below.
Okay, this is a big deal to me. The fluid simulations. Check that out. I know it looks a little bit weird, and it's probably going to look like that for a while, but this is actually freaking amazing. Like, even getting to this level to look like that, that's actually a pretty big deal. Because fluid simulations are really processing intensive, and the fact that they're doing it in real time is absolutely amazing. Because what most games do when you think that they have like fluid is they just fake the effect by having either surface ripples that are literally just like video decals, or they'll actually have a 3D animation on the surface of the water that manipulates the geometry, but it's pre-recorded animations. But this is being created on the fly. I don't know if you know how to do a fluid simulation in Blender, but basically you set a field, an area where the computer can calculate, and it has to calculate the possibility that any particle fluid, which is dealing with a ton of fluid particles, any particle, 3D particle fluid could be at in any space within that boundaries at any time. And the larger your field of calculation, the more processing power it takes. So this is actually really freaking cool.
The demo runs on our chaos physics system. Here we are using it to accurately simulate the rigid bodies of the falling rocks and the cloth of her scarf.
So to imagine like physics simulations for like objects on the character, take a look at The Witcher, where Geralt's hair is being physics. It's subject to physics, so it's flopping around. It's not an animation; it's just physics. It's really that makes games a lot really cool better. So they're just talking about stuff that's in it. I don't know if this is really improved from Unreal Engine 4, but it's really freaking cool stuff, in my opinion.
Now that the environment is so complex, we've needed to greatly improve our animation systems to adapt. We've added predictive foot placement and motion warping, which dynamically modifies IK and body position to look more natural.
Okay, let me talk about that for a second. IK stands for inverse kinematics, which is a style of animation which appropriates the player's limbs based on a target position rather than the angle of the bones. So forward kinematics will base the position of the player's bones on the position of the last bones. Only way to illustrate this would be to show on screen a video of... Let me just pull out Blender and show you.
This top one here is a forward kinematic rig. This bottom one is an inverse kinematic. I can't just drag it up there. What I would have to do is I'd have to go through the chain individually to get the hand up there. By contrast, the inverse kinematic rig, all that I have to do is drag the hand up and orient it.
Now that the environment is so complex, we've needed to greatly improve our animation systems to adapt. we've added predictive foot placement and motion warping, which dynamically modifies IK and body position to look more natural.
It's got footholds set on the wall, places where the character can put their foot, and then the AI chooses a foothold spot, or they just have a set course of spots. But it is dependent on the player's controls, so it is the AI choosing where to put their foot based on the directions the player dictates, and it uses IK to let the foot target that, and then the other bones follow it.
For the character to more realistically interact with the environment, we've added the ability to trigger seamless contextual animation events, like her hand on the door.
Looks promising.
So that's called attraction, where an object targets another object. I'll put a clip in here from his GDC talk where he shows that.
Took me several months to realize one more thing. So crouching is actually just a subset of a bigger thing, of avoiding. And if we can avoid, we can attract as well. So if we start raycasting into sides, we can have a lot of fun with character just walking around, simply, by the level. And coolest part is I've created these rules for avoidance and for attraction, and I can apply them to all my crouching zombie, aiming, female, carrying, whatever. And I can tell that different characters will do different things. Maybe somebody will reach further. Maybe somebody will be raycasting into other characters and touching other characters. Maybe somebody will be touching him as he goes on. I don't know.
Dynamic GI is amazing, not just for speeding up iteration, but also for its impact on gameplay.
Nice.
Any light
Looks
source can move while
a bit
still
like
having
me.
beautiful bounce lighting. Dynamic illumination means specular as well, which you can see on all the metal surfaces. You can even see the Niagara-powered bugs reacting to the light. Lumen not only reacts to moving light sources, but also changes in geometry.
Check that out. That lighting situation. Okay, wait. This lighting situation right here. This lighting situation is not possible with baked lighting. Or at least you would have to do a lot of fidgeting to do that. This is all real-time rendering right there.
Remember we mentioned high poly assets? This statue was imported directly from ZBrush and is more than 33 million triangles. No baking of normal maps, no authored LODs.
So an LOD is a low object detail model, which is a similar concept to bit mapping, where the textures become halved in size as the player gets farther and farther away from it to reduce impact on memory.
No baking of normal maps, no authored LODs. And we can do more than a single statue. There are nearly 500 of that exact statue at the same detail level placed in this room, for a total of over 16 billion triangles from statues alone. Over this entire demo, there are hundreds of billions of triangles.
See how this is a major contrast from Roblox?
So with Nanite, you have limitless geometry, and with Lumen, you have fully dynamic lighting and global illumination, all running on a
toaster
5.
This looks like a freaking movie, dude. Imagine that this is not a pre-rendered cinematic. This is actual gameplay. And this is in Unreal Engine 5, which is a real thing. So this stuff is real, believe it or not.
There's not much time left.
And this doesn't need to be constrained to small rooms. It can stretch all the way to the horizon.
Whoa!
Portal, it's open.
This is really, really
Don't
cool.
fail me now.
All of that is high detail stuff. Like, so think about this. You're building this big, massive scene, and you can I mean, you don't have to make these high detail if the player isn't going to see them up close, but you can make these as high detail as you want, and you don't have to worry about the renderer bloating like crazy, because it has a really good system for choosing how high of a level of detail to do it. And the player never sees low detail, but it never is rendering detail that the player isn't going to see.
Don't fail me now.
Okay, and also think of the fact of how fast this player is moving through here. Look how fast the character is moving through this environment. Normally this would cause like a bunch of... it would freeze it because it's loading, and that's not happening here. Look how fast you can move through all those high detailed areas. That's amazing.
It's time to see what's next.
This demo is so well written, by the way. Just like the dialogue of the player, I mean the character. Unreal Engine 5! Woohoo! Unreal Engine 5! And when is this thing coming out? Is this thing already out? Coming 2021! I'm so excited! I will definitely use that. I will definitely do this thing. I will definitely use this. This is so freaking cool. Okay, so if you are not excited about this by everything I've explained, just realize that this has to do with how movies and games are like merging together. Basically, games are turning into such cinematic experiences that it's like a movie that you can interact with, and then combining that with like VR, like you can totally like be in the movie and feel like you're in the movie, and it's really super cool. So like, dude, this is the best time to join and start in the game industry. You are definitely not too late. Everything is growing. This is amazing. Like, this is such a good time to jump in. Even if you're a beginner and you're starting with like Roblox Studio, like you can totally take advantage of this really huge expansion of technology. Like, this is amazing. This is a really cool time to be alive. And even if you don't have the skills yet to start like using this stuff, using like Unreal Engine, you can start wherever you are at. And I would highly recommend starting, because this is really cool stuff. And don't think that making stuff like this is too far beyond you, because it's not. All you have to do is practice a little every day or a few days each week, build your skills up, always stretch yourself a little bit, learn something new, but realize just take little steps, and the more and more little steps you take that are advancing you, make sure that every step is advancing you, but it doesn't have to be that big of a progress. Just make it constant, and you'll realize that over time it builds up. It's kind of like collecting pennies and nickels and dimes. Like, eventually you're gonna have a lot of dollars. So think about every skill you learn and every time you practice something is like you're making dollars. You're collecting little coins, and it's building up to dollars. And then, I mean, I wouldn't recommend trying to become a millionaire in real life that way, but the concept holds, where you're going to be building up your skills, and eventually you will be where you imagine that you wanted to be. Literally, your imagination is the limit with like what you can create and the skills you can reach. And because this technology is becoming readily available, and Unreal Engine is free to use until you make money, until you make like a certain amount of money, which is super amazing and noble of them to do. So like this is uncapping the roof of your potential. So the only thing blocking you right now is yourself. And so just stop blocking yourself and just start moving into the space where you could create stuff like this by taking steps. So I hope this Unreal Engine 5 demo really excites you. If you want to watch it without my commentary, there's a link in the description. And subscribe to my channel if you want to learn how to use Roblox Studio and Blender in conjunction with that. And I also give a lot of advice. So thank you all for watching. Please have a good day. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, let's build a better world. Mr. Kamsaki out.